Pokemon is one of the largest franchises in gaming, garnering around $130 billion as a whole. Which, Jesus Christ, between merchandise and games, what do you even do with all that? That is insane. Oh no. Oh no. I'm sure that you've seen a new game that has been marketing itself as Pokemon with guns has arrived. It's called Palworld. I'm also sure that you've seen it fucking people's elbowing the Steam charts and Pokemon sales in terms of rates. It's insane. Selling 7 million copies in the first 5 days, and as of right now, surpassing 23 million as I'm making this video. Which, oh my god. This is especially bewildering whenever you take into account the people behind both games and how different it was. One of the modelers and animators for Palworld, who worked at a convenience store, who they hired as a hobbyist to help teach the other teams how to actually model and animate and, you know, do game design on Unity. That kid is probably doing very well for himself now since he had stake in the company. God damn, good for him, man. Ultimately, the team behind Palworld is 40 people with $6.8 million, which is a good amount, but it's not exactly a lot to work with whenever it comes to paying for the employees, the modeling, the sound design, everything to work right. That can stretch out really, really fast. And I'm sure that not everyone on their team having a lot of experience caused a whole slew of problems, but I think the end product is really solid, and it shows the vision that they wanted to show really well. Which some of it isn't, you know, all of their own vision, but the scope of the world, the variety of pals you can do, the weapons, the buildables, the base designs, it's very solid and comes together really well. Now, if we look at Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, it was developed by a team of 200 people, as well as it probably had a much larger budget, which I could not find because Nintendo is a very private company. I tried. If someone can find that budget for me, leave it in the comments. That would be much appreciated. But beside Nintendo being very private, they are also very not happy with how this has turned out. But that's also kind of the lesson in 2024 gaming that I wanted to talk about. 2024 is an amazing and very odd landscape whenever you compare it to the early 2000s. There was not nearly as much as opportunity and freelance work for these smaller developers and smaller companies to really give it a shot and have their time to shine. And there's nothing that makes me more happy than being able to see smaller developers or smaller artists being able to flourish and show off their work. Because as a smaller content creator myself, I love putting my videos out there, and I'm sure it feels amazing to have all of this hard work that they put in pay off. For example, in the year 2023, I'm sure you heard of a game, Lethal Company. I have every belief in my body that a game like Lethal Company could have not been made on the Xbox 360 unless Activision had a fucking stroke and then someone snuck in and published it. With that being said, I love the new variety of games that we're getting in 2024, and while not all of them are good and some of them are cash grabs, people are tired of AAA slop, and not all AAA games are slop, okay? Don't take that out of context. I love some AAA games. I love God of War. I love The Last of Us. I love Uncharted, even if some of them were a little weirder than others. I love Alan Wake, but it's more so I love to see smaller developers with actual passion be able to make these games. And with that being said, I dived into Palworld to see what it all had to show me. I was not the largest Pokemon fan whenever I was younger, so this is not going to be me comparing it to a Pokemon game, but rather me playing it for what it is. But it is important to note that it does take a lot of inspiration from Pokemon and the new Zelda franchises like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom. So I hope you enjoy the video, and you know, give that little subscribe button a little tap. See it down there? Just give it a little tap. Thank you. So I'm sure whenever Palworld was announced, we all heard the term, it's Pokemon with guns, which for the most part is very true, but with added, you know, slavery and imprisonment and bloodshot and clans and eating disorders. Whenever you start Palworld, you basically start as nobody, stripped down all the way to your dogs in a loincloth. And of course, you're a gamer, so you'll infer that you need to catch pals and start building up workbenches and creating materials. Now, whenever you do this, you'll level up eventually and realize that this game is a slow-burning dopamine drug. If you've ever played Ark, you'll be familiar with this kind of system. Even with the buildables, it's a similar system as well. But the difference is that I fucking hate Ark, even though it has the goofiest character designs I've ever seen. And I do love that. I just personally couldn't get into it. Now, you'll start off with really basic items like stone pickaxes, stone axes, bows, basic spears. And you'll find that the fastest way to level up is through imprisoning catching Pokemon. Catching pals. Now, upon catching these pals, you'll spot a massive spire, and you're going to go towards it naturally because you see big, tall thing, you're thinking, what is that? And this is where you will learn that there are regional boss fights. There's 5 in particular in different varying environments all around the map. And as you catch more pals and level up, you'll get access to better equipments and eventually actual firearms, like my boy the musket over here. God, I love him. Look at that chunk of damage. That's crazy. But you'll not only gain access to firearms, you'll gain access to abilities for pals, like riding them, and getting better gear for pals. Like, you see this monkey? See this monkey? He's got a fucking AK. He's got an AK-47. And eventually you'll be able to take on these bosses. And I have to admit, it's a very rewarding feeling from going and getting shit on by these bosses to being able to fight them very, easily and shitting on them. Now, there's also a huge map with a variety of different environments that you can go to. And these different environments will require you to wear certain clothing to be able to traverse them safely. You go into the desert, you're going to need some heat-resistant armor to not get those little dogs of yours burnt. You have to cover them up, pal. Or if you go to the snow environment, you're going to have to bundle up as to not freeze to death. Now, along with this, there's also environment-specific pals. There's snow pals, desert pals, bamboo pals, and of course your normal pals, and also nighttime pals. There's a lot of pals, but not enough bug pals. And I say that very heavily. I want to ride a spider around, and there's no spiders, and that kind of hurts my feelings. There's my 8-legged freaks. Now, along with this, there's dungeons spewed across the entire map that have bosses at the end of them that you can catch, and 2 treasure chests behind them that you can go loot for good ass loot. I mean, what else do you need to know? Now, this gives the big incentive to go explore the map because you need to go get specific pals for specific weaknesses, and if you want one, you need to go explore. And there's also just really rare pals like the Anubis, who's only really in the desert area, and he's like level 40 and he'll fuck you up. But this is where your base comes into play. Whenever you catch all these pals, you can put them to work at your base, and they'll make things for you while you are gone. For example, whenever you start out, you're going to be making a lot of your own things and a lot of your own bullets, your own armor, and you are going to be the one working on them. You will be farming, you will be doing everything yourself. And as you get pals that are specialized with certain abilities and traits on them, for example, some can chop wood, some can mine rocks, some can generate electricity. And as you level up, you unlock more and more advanced things, and you'll need more and more pals. Whenever I say generate electricity, this is kind of a middle to late game thing that you unlock, and you basically use an electric pal as a battery to fuel your whole base, but they do it willingly. And it'll go from having a basic workbench to having pals working on an assembly line for you while you are gone to make higher quality items. And now whenever you get this level 40 Anubis and you decide, hey, I can't catch this guy because he's way too high level for me, you can actually breed certain pals to get a level 1 version of him, having to not catch him, which I think is really cool because you can pull up a page on how to breed for certain things, and you can make him at your base without having to go through the effort of having to catching him, but you still need to go through the effort of actually getting a breeding setup and the right pals, which makes it rewarding for working on your base. Which also, the Anubis is like wonderful for your base and does so many things. Now, I am thoroughly enjoying Palworld, but there are absolutely issues with it, and I expected that coming from a team that isn't necessarily as developed or had the budget that they wanted. Dungeons, for example, feel very tight, and pals will get stuck in the ceiling a lot, and they will merge into it, and you will not be able to catch them, but they'll be able to hit you. I got stuck in caves a few times in the walls, and I had to dismount and mount my Nightwing over and over again to try and get out. Along with this, there have been reports of fast travel beacons just being reset, and you have to go back to them and unlock them again, which isn't the worst thing, but that just shouldn't happen. I think the progression is great, but I did want to see more storytelling through the world, which maybe that's just the Dark Souls fan speaking inside of me, but I just love world storytelling. I've also seen that apparently pal spheres will sometimes bug out, making the chance to catch pals very, very low. And I've also seen insanely long load times to launch up a server with friends. Speaking of playing with friends, it looks like a lot of fun, so if you and your friends want to play this game, you should absolutely try it. I would recommend it if you are a fan of Ark or Pokemon or any of those kinds of games. It's absolutely worth your time. But I think that's really all I had to say for this video. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you guys next time. Always treat each other with kindness, and please subscribe if you've made it to this point. My name is Cambrodia.